Hello? Well, when we last met, we were. This is taking a long time to load. I think we'll just wait it out. Well, anyway, when we last met, we were talking about World War II and how the United States saved the world again. Or, if you prefer, Germany's back. And this time, it's personal. Often called the Big Bad, or simply the Deuce. What is happening here? So we looked at this cartoon by Dr. Seuss, kind of demonstrating the idea that isolationism reigned during the depressed days of the Depression during the 1930s. Obviously, we can see the symbolism here in this cartoon with the America First granny reading a book to her kiddos or her grandkids, Adolf the Wolf. And the wolf chewed up the children and spit out their bones. But those were foreign children. And it didn't really matter. So even though the United States wasn't directly threatened by the rise of totalitarianism, like fascism, Mussolini in Italy and in Germany, by Hitler, we also weren't threatened really yet by Stalin and the communism of the Soviet Union, or Hirohito and Tojo and Yamamoto, the militarism of Japan. Nevertheless, there were still some serious wounds from World War I that had scarred the American mind. Many believed that Americans had been manipulated by big businesses and banks and the government, and they called these people merchants of death, that we had been tricked for the benefit of the elite into the Great War. So, believing that they did not want to follow the same pathway as they had prior to World War I, the United States responded with a series of neutrality acts. These can be seen here in these Dr. Seuss cartoons. On the left one, we see that the Nazi woodpecker is hacking away at its sixth or seventh tree. This tree that it's attempting to take down is England. It has already taken down Poland and France and Denmark and Norway and Greece and Yugoslavia and Holland. And I think I might have miscounted, but you know who he has not attempted to take down, and that would be the United States, as it sits perched peacefully on its nest, eyes closed, saying, ho hum. When he's finished pecking down that last tree, he'll quite likely be tired. And the more famous one on the right here is, again, eyes closed America, meaning that we are blissfully ignorant of the surroundings that we find ourselves in. While the rest of the world is crawling with Nazism and totalitarianism, the United States sits safely in its own bathtub, which is this spot amidst the Atlantic and the Pacific where there are many thousands of miles of moat that protect the United States. And so we can, I suppose, at this point, believe that our old family bathtub is plenty safe for us. So this is just representing the neutrality acts, which were passed during the 1930s. During that stretch, the United States was led by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, and FDR even emoted during this time how much he hated war. Despite that, the Nazis and the Soviets developed a pact known, quite interestingly enough, as the Nazi-Soviet Pact. You can see on the left here is Hitler, and on the right is Stalin. Hitler says, "The scum of the earth, I believe," and Stalin responds with, "The bloody assassin of the workers, I presume." What this deal or bargain that these guys made did was take the country that was smack dab in between them, Poland, and basically created a buffer zone between the two of them. And you can see Poland there lying face first on the ground, dead. So what it did is it green-lighted Hitler's invasion of Poland, and thus Stalin wouldn't feel threatened by Hitler as he moved in on the Polish. And he did just that on September 1st, 1939, which is the inaugural date of World War II. Now, when that happened, the United States was still split on how to react. Isolationists, they preached neutrality. Back to Dr. Seuss. If we look at the left, isolationists seem, maybe, to some as weak and run down. Circles under my eyes, my tail drooped. I had a foul case of appeasement. Then I learned about guts, that amazing remedy for all mankind's woes, and now I'm taking it daily, and today I feel strong enough to punch Mr. Hitler right in the snoot. So many believe that to take this isolationist or neutral stance, the United States is this left before Byrd, weak and run down. And what we need is a more robust Byrd, the after Byrd. However, look at the other cartoon on the side there. Get your ostrich bonnet here, relieves Hitler headache. Forget the terrible news you've read, your mind's at ease in an ostrich head. And the caption, we always were suckers for ridiculous hats, of course, playing upon this idea that an ostrich would take its head, and when there's trouble around, the ostrich will simply plop its head right down into the sand so that it cannot see the threat. And if he can't see the threat, then the threat doesn't actually exist. All right. So after, these are people who want interventionism. On the left, people who want neutrality. Well, FDR wanted to find some middle ground here. And so he and Congress passed what became known as the Cash and Carry Plan. America was willing to deal, but not die for the cause. So here's Roosevelt. Mothers and fathers, I give you one more assurance. Your boys are not going to be sent into any foreign war. Again, Americans here are willing to deal, sell, cash, and carry, transport anything that our allies needed to fight for their cause. Yet we were not willing to die yet, even though we were already racing toward something pretty ridiculously awful via the Manhattan Project. We had to beat Hitler to a doomsday device, the atomic bomb. And here's a letter from, if you look closely down to the lower right-hand side, Albert Einstein, sent to, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And in a nutshell, Einstein, an immigrant from Germany, a Jewish immigrant from Germany, says, hey, Hitler is going for this thing. You got to beat him to it. This is the initial link between science and the United States government, and one, of course, that still persists to this day. And then here is a response from Franklin Roosevelt to Einstein. My dear professor, I want to thank you for your recent letter and the most interesting and important enclosure. All right. And so this is the beginnings of that thing which will eventually be known as the Manhattan Project, which will hire hundreds of thousands of people across the United States, many of whom have no idea what they're actually working on. But by August of 1945, it becomes clear when those first two atomic bombs are dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and bring an end to this war. All right, and here's just an image of one of the locations across the country where the Manhattan Project was being worked on. Don't talk. Protection for all. Silence means security. All right, that's it. Bye. How do I stop this?